oh, she looks guilty as hell. And then I'm looking at it and I'm saying, did you really say that? Mm-hmm. Did you really say that Caitlin Clark should thank her Heavenly Stars that she wouldn't be worth anything if she wasn't playing in the WNBA? Did you really say? See, all of these things that Nafisha Collier brought up.
For nearly 3 decades, the WNBA struggled just to be seen. Then, almost overnight, a true superstar arrived, someone pulling massive audiences and generating unprecedented revenue. Instead of embracing the moment, the league's leadership appears to be unraveling. Stephen A. Smith just pulled back the curtain on a stunning reality. The commissioner may be undermining the very player driving this surge. This has stopped being about the game itself. What we're witnessing now is a clash of power, pride, and corporate insecurity, where ego threatens to outweigh common sense.
Hey, Caitlin! Can you make it from there? Hey, Caitlin, how about from here?
Come on, guys.
Yeah, she can't make it from there.
No chance.
Caitlin, conmigo, what?
You got it. I'm not even gonna ask.
Hey, Caitlin, from here might be impressive. Am I right?
Whatever, Chet.
From right here.
Has the league's front office completely gone off the rails, or are we watching one of the most baffling acts of self-destruction in modern sports? Let me know what you think in the comments. Now let's break down what actually unfolded here, because this situation is beyond absurd. Reports began circulating about a new commercial spotlighting Caitlin Clark alongside the Indiana Fever. On the surface, that sounds perfectly normal until you realize it wasn't. Behind the scenes, that ad reportedly sparked chaos inside the WNBA. Sources describe emergency meetings, heated calls, and a league office in full-blown panic. According to Stephen A. Smith, the reaction from the very top, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert included, was nothing short of fury.
Let me clarify first, because it's proxy season, right? No CEO do you just put the base pay in there. You put their bonus, you put their stock options, you put everything. Caitlin has the ability to make up to $500,000 just in WNBA wages this year. So, of course, they're just looking at a base which is collectively bargained. And actually, it's low because she's the #1 pick. She'll make a little more than that. But she also has millions and millions of dollars of endorsements. She's actually, because she declared to become pro, her endorsements are higher in dollar value. She has a global platform now, not just a U.S. platform. So she's going to do just fine, as will the top players in the league, as every league does. Also, there's comparisons to the men. Those men's leagues are 75 to 120 years old. We're tipping off our 28th season. I would say if you looked at them 28 seasons in, we're further ahead. But I realize we still have a lot of work to do. And it's all about...
Take a moment and really let this sink in, because the logic here is completely upside down. Your biggest star secures a major national commercial. Free exposure, placing your league in front of millions of people who may have never tuned into women's basketball before. Any well-run sports league would be thrilled. You'd celebrate it publicly, blast it across social media, issue statements, and squeeze every ounce of momentum from it. That's the obvious move. But that's not what happened here. Instead, the reaction inside the WNBA was reportedly frustration and bitterness. And this isn't just speculation. Stephen A. Smith didn't hint around it, he all but confirmed it. He's been one of Caitlin Clark's most vocal defenders all season, but his recent remarks went far beyond on-court storylines. What he's pointing to now is something much deeper, a leadership problem at the core of the league. According to Smith, the mood at WNBA headquarters isn't excitement over growth, it's anxiety and envy driven by the reality that one player has grown larger than the league itself.
Lisa Bluter was in the commercial, Travis Scott was in the commercial, Travis Kelce was in the commercial, Jason Kelce was in the commercial, like the podcast thing, which we're gonna get.
Let's get into why this particular ad set everything off. When Caitlin Clark shows up in these big budget campaigns, whether it's Wilson, Gatorade, or State Farm, she isn't positioned as just another face from the WNBA. She's portrayed as something much larger, a movement, a once-in-a-generation presence. The visuals are elite, the storytelling is intentional, and the message is clear. She comes across as confident, self-made, and, perhaps most threatening to the league office, more powerful than the brand. of the WNBA itself.
Super hype, and they also launched the campaign From Anywhere, which is just perfect for Caitlin Clark. And obviously, fans have been waiting for a CC signature shoe for years. It feels like years at this point. She is now 2 seasons into the WNBA, and we've gotten the signature logo, and we've also gotten some merch, but that signature shoe is what everybody is on the edge of their seat for. And she recently went on New Heights once again to talk about her signature shoe, and she talked about the new technology that will be going.
For fans, this moment is electric. It's exciting. It pulls people in and makes them want to watch the game. But for executives like Kathy Engelbert, it signals something far more threatening, a collapse of control. The league didn't build this version of Caitlin Clark. They didn't design the visuals, approve the messaging, or shape the narrative. And that's exactly the problem. When the commissioner sees Clark front and center in these sleek high-end commercials, she isn't seeing growth, she's seeing independence. She's seeing a player who doesn't rely on the WNBA to thrive. Clark now operates in her own orbit. She has her own financial engine, her own influence, her own gravity, and according to Stephen A. Smith, that's where the anger comes from. It's not jealousy in the traditional sense. It's the realization that the league no longer holds all the leverage. Historically, leagues maintain power because players need them for exposure and income. Caitlin Clark has shattered that model. She's earning far more off the court than on it, and everyone in the industry knows it. That kind of financial freedom equals power, and power makes leadership uncomfortable, especially leadership that's used to calling every shot. Insiders say the timing of this specific commercial made everything worse. All season long, the league has been pushing a collective message. It's not about one player. They want the focus on history, on the system, on the shield. Then suddenly a 30-second ad drops and completely wipes that narrative off the board. It reminds viewers that there is, in fact, one person driving the attention, and it's not the commissioner. It's the kid from Iowa casually pulling up from the logo. The contrast is brutal. On one side, you have the WNBA's dated, low-budget marketing. On the other, Clark's premium brand partnerships that look polished, modern, and powerful. For league leadership, that comparison isn't just uncomfortable, it's humiliating. And humiliation often turns into resentment because it exposes failure. For nearly 27 years, the WNBA struggled to break into the mainstream. Then one player walks in and accomplishes more in a single season than the league managed in decades. That stings. Stephen A. Smith has been relentless in pointing this out, calling it absurd that a commissioner praised as a business expert would react emotionally simply because one player is dominating the spotlight. His argument is blunt. The anger is masking incompetence. Every new endorsement Clark lands, every viral commercial she appears in, puts a spotlight on what the league failed to do all those years. Put yourself in Engelbert's shoes. You're supposed to be the executive who grows the business. Yet Gatorade, Wilson, and State Farm are marketing your sport better than you ever did. That's not just embarrassing, it's career defining. Instead of adapting, instead of upgrading the league's marketing vision to match that energy, the reported response has been bitterness. And according to Smith, that attitude doesn't stay confined to boardrooms. He's drawn a clear line between leadership behavior and what happens on the court. If the commissioner is dismissive of Clark's success, why would opposing players feel compelled to respect it? Toxicity flows downhill. When leadership doesn't protect its star, when it treats her success as a threat rather than a victory, it signals to everyone else that she's fair game. That context makes some of the reckless fouls and unnecessary physical play this season make a lot more sense. To understand this reaction, you have to look at the league's history. For years, the WNBA has been run by a group with a very specific philosophy. They view the league as a movement, a collective mission, a shared struggle for legitimacy. Caitlin Clark represents something entirely different, individual stardom driven by pure market demand. She doesn't fit the mold. She disrupts the hierarchy. This commercial captures that disruption perfectly. It doesn't present Clark as part of a group, it presents her as a standalone force. The league spent decades selling the idea that the product is the collective. Clark's sponsors sell her as an icon. That philosophical clash between collectivism and star power is at the heart of this conflict. The old guard feels sidelined, as if all their groundwork is being ignored. ignored because one player happens to be generational and wildly marketable. Stephen A. Smith has even linked this same mindset to Clark being left off the Olympic roster. That decision, in his view, wasn't about readiness. It was about hierarchy, about sending a message. Wait your turn, earn your place. But advertisers don't operate that way. Brands don't care about seniority. They pay for relevance right now. That gap between a slow-moving, seniority-driven league office and a fast-moving, merit-based advertising world is creating chaos. Engelbert is caught in the middle, and instead of adjusting to the new reality, she appears to be fighting it. At the end of the day, this is a business, and Stephen A. Smith has accused the WNBA of borderline business malpractice, pointing to this commercial backlash as the clearest example. In leagues like the NBA or NFL, a star landing a massive national deal is celebrated because it raises the value of the entire league. It attracts casual fans, it sells jerseys, it grows the pie. So why the anger here? Because the league isn't getting the credit. Clark's off-court earnings completely dwarf her on-court salary, and that makes the organization look small time. When fans see her starring in million-dollar ad campaigns and then learn her WNBA base salary is roughly $76,000, it creates a public relations disaster, one the league brought on itself. And that's the truth leadership doesn't want to face. This situation puts a spotlight on two things the league would rather keep quiet: the pay gap and the lack of real revenue sharing. Kathy Engelbert knows that. Every time Caitlin Clark appears in another high-profile commercial, it reminds the public that the WNBA's biggest draw isn't being compensated in proportion to the attention and money she generates. And once that spotlight hits, the uncomfortable questions start flying. If one player can drive this much interest and value, why does the league still look financially fragile? Instead of addressing those questions head on or embracing the exposure, league leadership reportedly shuts down and gets defensive. The implication is clear. It would be easier for them if Clark were less famous, because then they wouldn't have to explain a broken business model. That's a scarcity mentality, arguing over scraps while Clark is creating an entirely new revenue lane on her own. Now zero in on Engelbert herself. She was hired as a corporate-minded executive, a former Deloitte leader brought in to modernize the league and grow the business. But the rise of Caitlin Clark has completely outpaced her. The league's response to this new commercial era hasn't been bold or innovative. It's been stiff, awkward, and reactive. We've seen this before, like when Engelbert struggled during a televised interview to directly address racially charged hostility aimed at Clark. The vague corporate deflection didn't land, and the backlash was immediate. According to Stephen A. Smith, that tension exists because Engelbert knows the pressure is mounting. Team owners aren't activists, they're business people. They see sold-out arenas, charter flights that only happen because of Clark's impact, and merchandise numbers exploding. If the commissioner starts looking like a barrier instead of a catalyst, her job security evaporates quickly. What's being labeled as anger may actually be fear, the fear of being exposed as the wrong leader for a rapidly changing moment. Clark represents acceleration. Her commercials are sharp, fast, global, and polished. By comparison, the league's official marketing often feels slow and outdated. It's not just a branding gap, it's a competence gap, and leadership is losing that comparison badly. Instead of rising to the moment, reports suggest resentment has taken over. At this point, jealousy isn't a stretch. It's the only word that fits. Stephen A. Smith has said it. Charles Barkley has said it. What's shocking isn't players being jealous of players, it's executives resenting their own star. Why would a commissioner feel threatened by one of her athletes? Because Clark holds more real influence. When Caitlin Clark speaks, people listen. When Kathy Engelbert speaks, many fans tune out or don't even recognize the name. That's a brutal reality for someone accustomed to being the authority figure. This commercial solidifies Clark as the face of women's basketball, regardless of standings or official narratives. For years, the league tried to manufacture stars and dictate who fans should rally behind. Clark didn't need that machinery. Her rise was organic, explosive, and unstoppable. That loss of control is what fuels the rage. Leadership can't dictate her image, her endorsements, or her voice, because she doesn't depend on the league's permission or paycheck. You can see that insecurity surface in small but telling ways. Fans have documented how long it sometimes takes official WNBA accounts to post Clark's highlights compared to others. It feels petty, and it feels deliberate. That kind of behavior doesn't happen accidentally. It reflects tone from the top. One of the clearest indicators of this tension is what the league doesn't do. When Clark's latest commercial dropped, there was no repost, no congratulatory message, no press release celebrating expanded visibility, just silence. Contrast that with The NBA, which aggressively promotes star endorsements because it understands those wins lift the entire ecosystem. The WNBA's silence around Clark's commercial success says everything. You don't ignore your biggest asset unless there's resentment involved, and that silence is starting to alienate fans. The millions of new viewers Clark brought in aren't oblivious. They notice the double standard, they sense the hostility, and increasingly they're starting to see league leadership as the antagonist in this story. By refusing to embrace Clark's momentum, the commissioner is drawing a hard line, us versus her. As Stephen A. Smith has warned, that's a battle the league cannot win. You can't fight cultural momentum. You can't suppress the moment. Clark is the moment. The most troubling part of this theory is how boardroom behavior may be bleeding onto the court. If leadership treats Clark's success with coldness instead of pride, it sends a subtle but dangerous signal. She's not protected. If the commissioner treated her like the asset she is, it would establish a tone of respect. Instead, we've seen delayed discipline, questionable no calls, and repeated physical incidents. Smith argues that this isn't coincidence. Leadership is hesitant to fully protect a player who exposes their shortcomings. By allowing jungle rules to apply, it almost feels like some want to see Clark struggle, to be humbled, so they can claim she's not that special after all. But every time she bounces back with another commercial or viral moment, that narrative collapses again. Stephen A. Smith just pulled the curtain back on which direction the league is choosing. And it's the wrong one. If this breakdown changed how you see what's happening, hit like and subscribe, because this story is far from over.